Well. This is the Soulful Cream Podcast, and I am your host, Cream Diggler. And today we have a special guest, and Malcolm Travers, the founder and host of MaleMediaMind and the M3 podcast. Welcome, Malcolm.
Hey, what's going on? It's great to be on the show. I am a big fan. Like I said, I get soothed to sleep by your melodic voice often.
Thank you so much.
It is very nice podcast. I very much enjoy it.
Thank you. So, Malcolm, you have been in the game of podcasting. You know, we do have hot topics today to talk about, and we do have a main topic that I have already forgotten what that topic is. It is about heterosexual and gay men have both been reported to prefer non-femme gay men as leaders. So we're going to talk about that more. As well as other hot topics. But before we get into all of that, Malcolm, you've been in this game for 10 years. Tell me, what made you get into this? Let's start there. What made you get into this podcasting?
Well, I really started off writing a blog, and that extended from my time as a print journalist for my local paper. And, I gave up that job just simply because the hours and what I was being asked to do just didn't mesh with my thought of journalism. And, I just went into, corporate America, working for AT&T, but I still had this need to write. And so I already had a blog, but I was in a relationship with someone and he had a blog and we decided to put our blogs together. And I would say within 2 or 3 months, we just started attracting people to the blog, and then eventually it became a YouTube channel, like really, really fast. Now that I go back and look at it, it was a New Year's resolution, started in January. Sometime in April or that summer, we had, I don't know, at least 10 contributors and we're doing events. And it was a little too fast. To be honest, I did not want any of that. I hated it, actually. The managing people when it got too big, it got really big really fast. And and so I kind of did a reset sometime in 2019, 2018. I just stepped away from everything. And for my mental health, I mean, now that I'm back, that's kind of where my focus has been. Because I feel like before I was just going with the wind, whatever was popular, trying to chase the biggest likes and so forth.
Right.
And it wasn't really fulfilling. And so I have nothing bad to say about those topics. I mean, but they just weren't me, know? So
now tell me, now I could be wrong. You seem kind of introverted to me. I get introverted energy.
Oh, yeah.
So is that would I be right about that?
Oh yeah. No, I'm absolutely petrified in social situations. No, seriously, the first time I had to give a speech for M3, I literally got a hernia.
Oh my god!
From the strain. It was probably a previous injury from from school, but my stress levels were so over the roof that a previous tear in my abdominal wall literally ripped apart from the stress.
So why did you choose to get into this forward-facing hobby or side gig? What made you? What drew you out of yourself into this?
Because it was helping. That's the best I can say, is that it was making me feel better, giving me some sort of purpose. Because I worked a very, like I said, mind-numbing corporate job. So it gave me something to do that was meaningful. Definitely connecting with people. And just sort of talking about the things that maybe in my personal life I am too afraid or ashamed to speak on. For some reason, over a video camera doesn't feel like the same thing. I could be kind of open for some reason over a cam.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get that. So tell the people about MaleMediaMind and what is its mission, and why did you create it?
Well, I think mute myself. Okay, real. I think at first it was just get people to read the articles. I remember the first article that got some attention was one on open relationships, and I
Mhm.
think this just happened to do with the fact that I was newly in a relationship and was just like exploring a very um, pro open relationships point of view.
Mm.
And I still stand by that article. However, 10 years of life have taught me that it's a lot more complicated than that. That, I used to think of, classic romance as a fairy tale sold
Mm.
to us by Disney and
Sure,
just,
sure.
capitalism in general, just like, get them babies, get that job, make that money so we can exploit you. Just kind of like, like the only kind of love that pop culture tends to glorify is romantic love. They don't really talk about family love or
Mm.
community love
Mhm.
because those don't sell. At least that's how my jaded point of view was. But anyway, that being said, I get now that it's much more complex, and that came through my interactions with people,
Mhm.
and that's something I am doing now more than ever is trying to make sure that I keep in touch with the audience and not necessarily trying to follow what's popular, but to learn from other people's experience
Sure,
as much as I
sure.
can. Yeah.
Uh, and your M3 podcast that you also have, I think those episodes usually premiere on Tuesdays.
Yes.
What is that? What's the premise of that podcast, and what's that about?
Well, honestly, I think it has to do with the fact that when I present these topics on air,
Mhm.
I feel sometimes um, I talk over people, especially if I think I'm right. So I figure like I record basically the same topics on length or at length
Mhm.
before I do the live stream, and most of the times I'm also writing about those topics as well. So
Mhm.
like I think once I have delved into a topic long enough, that's when I will bring it back to the audience and get some different points of view. In fact, I want the contradictory point of view
Yeah.
in a way that I can understand.
Mhm.
Because there's so many times the issue is just like I get that people have opposing views, but it's just like I don't understand. I can't go through the process to get to where their mind is at. And
Sure.
so I feel that's kind of the idea of doing it solo, although I do want to do more um, guest and interviews on the podcast as well. But
Yeah.
um, I just figured that's a faster, more direct way to get the podcast done because it's
Exactly. Yes.
so difficult to get a guest host. Yeah.
So difficult to get people to commit to
Yeah.
times and honor the times and all that stuff.
It's difficult. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah. All y'all out there thinking y'all want to start a podcast, go ahead. Go ahead and try.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try. I wonder what the
Yes.
statistics are on how many people start a podcast in a year and how many people are still doing it when that year is up. I really would like to. I need to do some research on that.
My understanding is that the numbers are not great after 6 months.
Yeah, I believe
Y-
it.
yeah. And I think the interesting thing to me is that the act of podcasting makes you better. Like every subsequent episode, hopefully, is better than the previous
Right.
in some small way. So,
Yeah.
like even if you're at a place where none of your shows are getting views, it does mean your subsequent episodes will be better if you're
Yeah.
paying attention to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I disagree that you talk over people because I've been a guest on your show. I think you do a really good job of making space for people to talk. I don't think you do. I don't
I'm getting better, but that definitely understanding that I can roll the tape back and replay it as many times as I want.
think
Because I could be petty like that. Be
you
like,
do.
you did
Nice.
say that, okay? All right, it's okay. So,
All right. So we're gonna get into some entertainment and some pop culture, which I know is Malcolm's favorite.
of
And I'm
course.
being slightly sarcastic here. So he's gonna humor me and play along. So first things first, Yahoo Entertainment is reporting a man wrote in and on what is that thing called, like Pinterest or something that's blowing up, and he wrote that he lied to his father about his father asked him on his wedding day, was his fiance pregnant? And
Okay.
he lied and said, no, she's not pregnant. Uh, and so, of course, less than 9 months later, they had a baby. And the dad was like, why'd you fucking lie to me? And he's like, well, because I didn't want you to judge me. I didn't want to hear all that on my wedding day. And so there's different people saying different things on social media. What do you think? Was the guy out of line for lying to his dad?
Yes, but I mean, it's one of those lies that you almost welcome, especially considering that, you know, if she was, getting married pregnant, that might have been
Hmm.
something not just about his relationship, but her, her status as a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't want that shit spread around. And so I think it was tactless of his father to ask him so directly because
Hmm.
under normal circumstances, if you suspect that this person is pregnant, you know damn well sure that they don't want to fucking announce that.
You're
so
right.
stop being so,
She,
stop being surprised when the person lies to you when they're clearly hiding something from you.
right. She's all up there in a white dress, and you asking
Right.
her if she's pregnant.
You're literally asking to be lied to when you ask that question. Like, sure. I remember, God, the dumbest thing ever when I had a friend. We were in middle school and we weren't supposed to snack in class, but we were coming back from the lunchroom to the class, whatever, and they were expecting people for snacks and stuff. So he had a bag of Skittles. He's trying to chomp down. He's like, "Oh." And he's like, do you have Skittles in your mouth? He goes, no. And just a huge chunk of Skittles lands in this girl's hair. And oh my God. So bad. That's kind of how I feel about that. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but you're expecting to be lied to when you ask someone with a mouthful of Skittles, are you eating Skittles?
That is great. They need to steal that for Abbott Elementary. That could be a good moment in Abbott Elementary. That's hilarious.
Oh God, those kids are awful. It's awful.
Oh man. Well, that actually leads to our next topic of speaking of like kids. It was reported over on people.com that a third grader found a gun in the bathroom. But hold on, not just any gun. It was the superintendent's gun. So I guess when he sat down to take a dump in the bathroom, he took the gun off the holster. And this is in Texas, by the way, so it's a right to carry state. And he sits it down on top. Because I'm taking my cell phone in the bathroom with me and set it on top of that toilet paper thingy, and and then you leave it like, oh crap, I gotta go back in there. So that's what he did with his gun, apparently. And so now there's an investigation. Do you think this superintendent's going to lose his job, or should he lose his job? What do you think? What if that was your kid who found that gun in the bathroom?
Yeah, I would think he's going to lose his job. And then I would think that if the parents of that child were in any way, litigious, they would sue the school as well. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know what to tell them other than like, if you go have a gun, put like a little a sticker on it so it beeps when it gets too far away. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, that would. I mean, it's just like when you hear. I mean, it was just in the news. A kid shot themselves playing with a gun. I mean, of course, I'm sure that happens a lot, but recently I just remember reading that. So it's like you have to. Let's get beyond the gun issue in terms of like, is it stupid or not that they allow people to carry guns on school property and all that kind of stuff. And I know in Texas they're probably thinking, well, if the superintendent, they know the teachers are packing, then maybe ain't nobody going to come and try to shoot up the school. But I'm gonna get beyond all that.
Right.
The thing about it is the kid. What if that kid would have started playing with that gun or took the gun into the schoolhouse to show his friends or something? That could have been a whole nother situation.
Or not only that, like my mind goes to the dark places where that kid is a completely, evil little demon seed and was just looking for a gun to fall into his lap. And he's like, fuck yes, I get to, finally carry out this fantasy that I've had,
Right. Yeah.
And that's a real possibility, is considering that, for young minds, discerning reality from fantasy is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
There was a 6-year-old, a first grader, who shot their teacher not too long ago, and
Yeah. I remember
and
that.
they said that there were incidents in which that child attempted to choke out the teachers beforehand. So it's like before he even got the gun,
Wow.
he was actually, he did something to where the teacher couldn't pull their chair from under their desk,
Mm.
and was straight up choking her out.
Wow, that must have been a big kid.
Yeah,
or a
that's true.
small teacher. Or a
One or
small
the other.
teacher.
This is true.
But
At 6 years old, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like I was a big kid, but
yeah.
still,
But
really.
still, yeah, it's I taught high school briefly, and
Mm,
and I quickly realized I was not cut out for it,
yeah,
because they partly want you to be a babysitter, or you have to be so masterful at classroom management. I mean, you got to be a master of psychology, and just know how to like psych these kids out into like cooperating. Even then, that doesn't always work. I remember one time this guy, he was cutting up, nothing too bad, but I was like, you need to leave. You can leave the room. I was good for kicking a kid out and sending him to the principal's office. I was like, I don't want to deal with this. They got tired of me.
right, right.
So the kid was like, I don't want to leave. And so I fooled him. I was like, come out of the office, come out in the hallway and talk to me. I stepped out in the hallway. He stepped out with me, and I stepped back in the room and shut the door on him. And then we got into a push and pull of the door, like him trying to get back in the room. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. This can't be my life. This can't be my life.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
that lasted one year doing that.
Yeah. No, I don't think I even lasted a full semester like substitute teaching,
Mm,
in the sense that like it was, people literally threatening you
yeah,
with physical harm. And I'm like,
yeah.
y'all, if you only knew that I want to actually do this at this point, you are tempting me so hard. But
Yeah, yeah. Crazy. God bless the teachers, and
yeah, that's true.
because it is definitely a calling, not a job, man.
Right.
I tell you. And speaking of callings, by the way, I'm
Mm,
horrible at transitions.
mm.
So I just make up random transitions to So just so you know. So speaking of callings, Mariah Carey, she's she is apparently she's a producer on a Broadway show.
Okay.
Some Like It Hot. We all know Some Like It Hot
Yeah.
from it was like a movie, right? The black and white movie.
Yes.
Uh,
Th- Yeah, I think that was with was it Marilyn Monroe? I think she did.
yes, Marilyn Monroe was in it, and there was a famous
Yeah.
actor, like a guy in it. I can't think of his name right now.
Mm.
But where these two friends pretend to be women in order to. I think they were escaping something. They're escaping like some thugs or something who are after them. But
Okay.
anywho, they turned this show into a musical, a Broadway musical, and Mariah Carey is
Yeah.
one of the producers on it. Now, what do you think? I think Mariah is trying to get her EGOT. I think that's what
Yeah.
she's trying to do.
She
Because
could.
J Hud just got her EGOT for was that Strange Loop? I think she produced on
Mm.
was one of the producers on there. Well, she probably just threw him a couple of. She didn't really produce nothing. She just threw her name and some money at the problem, and they're like, sure, sure, sis, you're a producer, which I'm sure they were happy to have
Yeah.
her have all that. What do you think? Do you think Mariah Carey really is into? Well, she is
Yeah,
a
she does have a she has an Oscar, I remember, from, was it The Prince of Egypt? That soundtrack, right?
yeah, but she
And
also loves Marilyn Monroe. That
mhm.
make
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I think it makes a good a celebrity producer can be great as long as they're not getting in the way. Like she
right.
does have the reputation of a true diva, in the sense
Yes.
that she will not be questioned. That could be pretty hard to deal with. But if she has a good manager, I'm not exactly sure who that would be. I don't know her inner circle or whatever.
Mhm.
But if she has people who have worked with her for a while to, manage her personality as to everyone else who's involved, I think it probably would be a good publicity, like I think a lot of Broadway suffers from the they actually kind of still need star power
Yeah, yeah.
in Broadway, not so much as movies today. And not only
Mhm,
that, it's an established uh, property.
mhm.
People are somewhat familiar with it, but it's been far outside the norm for a while. It gives you old Hollywood.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that would be fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that, you know, since we don't have the trailers in our face every day like we do when a movie comes out, it definitely helps to have a star like Mariah Carey tweeting about it and posting about it on her Instagram and stuff. I know if
Yeah,
Janet Jackson was producing some show, I would be more likely to. I mean, I go to the theater anyway, but I
yeah,
definitely would be more than likely to get my butt there if I thought that Janet Jackson had some part of it, just to see what
yeah.
she.
Especially if it was also something like you said, a personal, connection for her.
Hmm.
And
Definitely,
yeah,
yeah. So speaking of superstars, Chris Brown is in the news again, and this time not for the best stuff. Although I don't necessarily blame him. So y'all come
mm,
closer. Y'all come closer. So here we go. So I didn't realize it's Chris Brown was 17 when when he had that situation with altercation with Rihanna, uh,
yeah.
and and now he's 33. What
Hmm.
math is that? Is that 16 years ago? Yeah, I think that's the math. 16 years,
Okay.
right? So Chloe Bailey of the Hallie and Chloe, and she
Hmm.
I guess announced that she's going to be doing a single with Chris Brown, and most people were really excited about it. But Keely from the Cheetah Girls and 3LW, she posted on her page. I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, Chris Brown is riding on the coattails of black women, getting them to co-sign on him, and he's an abuser, and they need to stop, embracing him because he's a problem. And so Chris Brown claps back and a long clap back on
Mm.
Instagram about Keely and how she's one clout chasing, two how she gonna talk about anybody's past when she just admitted that she had a train run on her by what was that group, Omarion? Was it Omarion's group or some other one of those boy band groups?
Oh,
She admitted that she had a train run on her with them. And so and then of course they all start making fun of the way she speaks and talking about so stop it, and all that kind of stuff. And so so they just going in on Keely. I mean, I say
yeah,
that sarcastically because Keely shouldn't open. If you go open your mouth, you really, I mean, you gonna jump in the
yeah.
ring. You got to be prepared to take some hits. I mean,
Right.
do you think it's unfair that people are still labeling Chris Brown as a abuser of women?
No, I don't, because he is. I mean, it's just a fact, right? Um, Now, whether or not you've forgotten about it or you want to forget about it, that's another issue. Some people
Hmm.
are never going to forget about it just because it's a personal part of their life.
Hmm.
And, having, say, an abuser, get to live their life and you're stuck there with the trauma, like, yeah, I think a lot of people are just like, fuck that dude forever.
Mm.
Like you don't. I'm not necessarily one of those people, honestly. I think blame is an overused salve for our own discontent, right? Like
Mm.
blaming someone else gives you the ability to not have to work on yourself so much. So, I understand it. I don't agree with it, but it's like, who am I to say one or the other way? So I feel like if someone genuinely feels the way that it
Mhm.
seems like she genuinely felt, then go ahead. It's your platform. Express how you're going to express. I think don't be stupid about it, and
Right.
recognize that there is probably going to be more people on Chris Brown's side, even though I don't even know. I
Mhm.
just assume that generally women are not given the benefit of the doubt the way that men are, just
Mhm.
generally, and any sort of abuse or sexual scandal,
Mhm.
um, sad but true. Uh,
Well, I mean, Chris Brown posted on his Twitter or one of his social media accounts a picture at the O2 Stadium that was like sold out and had sold out multiple nights. And he's like, basically like y'all are back there, and this is where I am. Like you're holding on to this to the old me stuff, and so, man, so I get it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we can say something that somebody did at 17 is who they are at 33. I don't know.
No, no, I think that is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I would say all blame is somewhat ridiculous because even if he did it now
Mm-hmm.
at 30, what is he, 33?
33. Uh-huh.
At 33, we could still say, well, it was his upraising, it was his family, it was his bad relationships, it was he hadn't healed from other trauma. You could off put the
Sure.
blame to tons of different things. We choose not to, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We choose where
Mm-hmm.
we want the blame to be, despite all of the disparate ways that you could choose. It's a multiple
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I think there's some logic though. It's like
Yeah.
your grown ass mind versus your 17 pubescent your growing mind is a little different. So if he
Yeah.
did it today, I think he'd be done. He'd be done. Like he'd be done for at least a good. I don't think he can release no good songs. He'd get the R. Kelly treatment. At this
Right.
point.
I'm surprised that he has gotten the good treatment he has. And that's
Yeah.
fine. I don't know. I'm not pro cancel culture because I think that's kind of ridiculous. Like the shit that's going on with Ezra Miller and the Flash,
Oh
for
yeah, yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Like I don't understand that. I mean, I get that he did some awful shit, but what does that have to do with the movie? I really don't get that. Did that movie facilitate his rapes or kidnappings or whatever the fuck he did? I don't think so.
Well, I tell
Let's
you,
hope not.
that's the world we live in, right? Where
Yeah.
if what you do in your personal life is egregious enough, uh, people will bring it to your job, right? They'll bring it to you, they'll bring it to your job and show them the video. Look, your employee, this person did this horrible thing, and then next thing you know, that person's fired for some type of out the company has about what are those things called, those moral clauses and things of that nature or whatever,
Yeah.
so because don't nobody want to be associated with all that. Them tiki torch guys, they thought their job was safe. Their faces start, I really want to I need to do an episode on the tiki torch man and where are they
Yeah.
now. That would be
Yeah.
interesting to find out where those guys are.
I think that there's January 6 people as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I remember some sippy tea tasting where this, I guess almost adult child turned in her own parents.
Oh yeah. I remember that too.
Your ass was down there. I saw you.
No,
Call
hey,
the FBI.
was that a woman that Marsha? What's her name? Marsha Taylor Green. What's her name? That Marsha?
Yeah, Maria something. Yeah, I don't
Something
know.
like that. M. Taylor.
Yeah,
When she was talking after Kyrie Green's murder, and she was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, him." But we still haven't found justice for this woman who died on January 6th. That was the woman who was like climbing up on a fence or something, right? Who's a insurrectionist, right? Like something.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. I was like, girl, you trying to get justice for the woman who was committing a crime? Actually, that woman is a mess, man. She is a mess.
she's a hot mess. But you know what's so funny is I heard someone compare her to Donald Trump and says, "Well, she's actually made more money in her business than Donald Trump has." As a CrossFit trainer or whatever, she owned a gym somewhere in Georgia. And she actually was a decent businesswoman. Like what can Trump say about that? Sips tea. She never filed for bankruptcy. I mean, she's at least got that under her belt, I guess.
Okay, well, at least that's one positive thing we can say about Marjorie. She got her business and her fitness together. I guess.
There you go. She's a fit, crazy bitch.
Yeah. Don't ever say we never said nothing nice about the other side on this podcast. There you go. There you go. So now, according to Yahoo Lifestyle, I don't know how this is. I don't know who's doing this research, but the average penis length is growing.
Yeah, I
So,
heard about that.
so I'm like, are we lying more now? Are they literally going out and touching peni and measuring the penis?
So
Like
I
what?
think they're actually measuring penises, and this would accept, because what we know about what causes penis size to increase is hormone levels. So this probably has a lot to do with the amounts of hormones that we put into our food. Yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
yeah, and so yeah, it's more based on the what do you say, the environment of the womb rather than your genetics
Hmm.
applies to penis size. So
Hmm.
yeah, and I think of course, with any sort of survey, there are lies, but
Sure.
in this case, I think they actually measure penis size, and
Mm.
there are differences in cultures and diets, and I think that's kind of what it might say. Although,
Mm. And I wonder, are they measuring flaccid or erect? And if so, interesting study.
yeah, because I
Like,
think the funny thing is, I think they measure penis size even beneath the surface of your.
oh,
Yeah, so they
yeah.
actually go down to where it anchors to your pelvic bone
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
measure the entire length of the shaft.
Oh, I'm sure all guys is like, yeah, count that. Count.
Yes, count count the parts that the fat covers up.
Yes. That's what they're doing on Grinder and on on all the apps. They're like, yes, I am 12 if you count the subcutaneous parts.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. For one, most people overestimate the size of the average penis, which is
Yeah.
interesting. But I mean, and two, the actual range of the penis is fairly large. Like there are lots of people with penises shorter than 2 inches. There are plenty of people with penises longer than 12 inches. So I mean, that fact alone should tell you that our view of what an average penis size is not informed by a large enough sample.
And I think what's interesting, when I was looking at the article, I'm looking for numbers, and I'm like, what's the number? They didn't tell us.
Right.
They just said it's increasing. I'm like, okay, because I thought the average size for the longest was somewhere around 5 or 6 inches was
Yeah,
the average
something like
size.
that. Yeah. I
So
think the average went from in North America from 5 inches to like 6.5 or something like that.
okay, oh okay.
And that was over 30 years or so.
Mm. Good for y'all out
Yeah.
there. You knew penises. Good for y'all. Uh, and I guess more serious news. It's been about 4 months since the Shanquella Robinson, the young woman who went to Mexico with her friends,
Yeah.
and ended up dead. We saw the viral video of her getting uh, beaten by one of the girls. I wouldn't call it a fight because she wasn't fighting back.
Right.
Um, Being attacked, and then
Right.
next thing we know, she's dead, and they said something about a cracked spine or something or neck. It was a
Yeah.
part of a contributing factor uh,
Right.
to what happened, but yet we don't have it. I think, or have there haven't been any major developments since then. Uh,
No,
like
I haven't heard much.
yeah, the family is doing a walk, like kind of like a march from I forget from where to where, but they're doing like this long distance, and they're going to a post office or something so that they can mail like 1,000 letters to the Mexican authorities to, like, kind of like put some heat on them to do something. But
Right.
it's like, what
So,
can they really do when all the culprits are in the United States? You know?
oh, okay. So they all made it back to the States, and
Mhm.
there should be arrested in Mexico for her murder.
Right, they should have been arrested in Mexico for it, but they weren't.
Right.
They were able to
Right.
get back. Um, I think they said that one person was named as a person of interest, but we don't know who that is, which one it is. Everyone is, you know, guessing. And one friend, he went and posted online about shortly after it happened, like, well, I got there a day late and da 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 da, and I did see her, but she was alive when I saw. So there's all these different conflicting stories that are happening, but it's like, oh man, I mean, I just try to think if it was my sister and that had went over there like that, and just to be in this limbo. Oh my gosh, it'd be so hard
Yeah.
not to try to become a vigilante right now, if I, as a family member.
Yeah, I think this is one of those times where our TV dramas fail us in our imagination, because we assume that things will move quickly. People will be arrested, investigations will, happen. But I mean, in a case like this being an international case, I mean, there's just like tons of, you know, jurisdictional
Yeah,
issues, right? And then on
yeah,
top of that, maybe not the best evidence or corrupted evidence. Like the fact that everyone has seen this video gives them the opportunity to make up stories about the video.
true.
Because that's the thing I was saying about with police cams in our general reform of criminal justice in the US. So the cams don't really change the narrative if you know you have a cam on.
Mm,
And from the very moment you hit record, you're shaping the story that's going to be told,
mm,
you
yeah,
know? And so that's my issue with this, the friends and so forth. There's a lot of information online, but it's outside of their control. And the people who are guilty are able to shape the narrative.
right.
If not completely, at least they have the ability to in some ways.
Yeah. But I
So
tell you, those people, if you just Google those people's names who went on that trip, they will forever be tainted in some way. Like, I mean, I couldn't imagine being a young woman dating any one of those guys who went on that trip, right?
that's true. That's a good
You
point.
know, so I would be like, oh, how do I not know that you didn't have something to do with that? You know?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, of course, our ability to search is going to go past just names. They'll just scan your face and be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that video came out. Holy shit. Like, not having shit to do with you. Like, oh, God.
Oh, right, exactly. Well, it was nice knowing you. Did I say I could meet you? That no, I'm booked. I'm washing my hair. Yeah. Oh man. So, in other news, in Colorado, uh, these black farmers are dealing. You've been hearing about this with the black farmers dealing with the white folks. Their neighbors have been like poisoning some of their cattle and poison pets. They've had like a years ongoing feud, and the reason why it's been going on for years is because the cops are not helping. The cops are almost a part of the problem as well, to the
Yeah.
point that they had to take to social media to post about it. And now people have started sending a GoFundMe. There's NAACP's gotten involved and has gotten down up over there to Colorado to try to work with these people because they can't seem to get any justice. They feel like these people are trying to run them off their land, right? And
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to
Yeah.
trying to make them lose their land. When I think my reading about this is like 1%, less than 1% of our farming lands are owned by black farmers.
Right.
And it used to be so much more, but they got this kind of shit and other kind of stuff that
Right.
ran them off their lands or got their land stolen from them. And it's just like, it's so frustrating to watch that kind of stuff and still happening
Yeah.
now.
I think what's even more frustrating is the fact that you need some sort of evidence for people to believe you.
Oh
Like when
yeah.
that comes up, because they just don't want to believe you because it's so horrible to think
Mhm.
that an entire system would be against you. That if the police are, not getting involved, they say, oh well, there must be a reason why
Mhm.
they're not involved. But the truth is, I mean, it's happened so frequently that it does fit into a pre-established narrative of, where local authorities are not willing to enforce the law. It is basically, a way for local people to almost be like I mean, domestic terrorists. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Like if
Yeah.
when it gets at its worst, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to run. They're trying to get
Mhm.
you to sell your property in some cases so that they can have the best land or whatever.
Mm.
They may not just they just may not want to work with you.
Yeah.
Like when they have to go to whatever the local dealership or whatever it is where everyone gets their feed or their stock or
Mhm,
their
mhm.
whatever. They just may not want to see black people there. It's like I lived my whole life without having to deal with black folks.
Mm.
And it's like,
Right.
you know what? It's nothing personal. I just don't want you here.
Right.
It's horrible to say. It's not
Yeah.
personal, but it's you. It's
Yeah.
definitely you.
Mhm. Like, I wish you luck, but yeah, your money's no good here. Like,
Pretty
yeah,
much.
totally. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want to believe that that kind of world exists, that we can live in, that we can simultaneously live in a world where a society where we have had a black president, but also live in a world where black farmers can't hold on to their land. They got to fight to hold on to their land. It's like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
world. This is
Yeah. And
the
it was like a whole bunch of things that Trump. I was going to say that Trump did took it out of the shadows and made it obvious.
hmm
To say
hmm
like you have every right to be aggrieved as white people.
yeah, yeah,
Like he really did feed into that, and I think it was ironically because of Obama that these
hmm
people started feeling aggrieved.
yeah.
They started to feel like Obama was giving special privileges to black folks when that was clearly not the case, because everything in his biographies and
hmm
his personal notes was like he was deathly afraid of becoming the
yeah,
black president, right? He
yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
be America's president, not
hmm
the black
I mean,
president.
he
Yeah.
was so careful in that way that
Yeah,
HBCUs were not a big fan of Obama in terms of financially. Like
exactly.
HBCU leaders were like, Obama ain't doing shit for us. Okay,
No,
he was
really was.
not.
He was afraid to. He really
Yeah,
was.
he was
He didn't
not
want to
coming
be.
through.
He wasn't trying to be, neglectful or dismissive, but he
Right.
also was afraid of being seen as the black guy. You know.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Completely. And Wendy Williams were in our next topic. Wendy Williams was going through some things for a while, and she's out and about now, and she got a little bit of good news because her ex-husband Kevin Hunter wanted to extend his alimony payments.
Oh
And
yeah, I keep hearing about that.
Kevin was like, I need this, I need that money. And the judge was like, no, no more. The judge shut it down. Although I think there's still like an open door that he could maybe appeal that, but uh, she gets to breathe easy. Her bank accounts get to breathe easy for a little bit while longer.
That doesn't make no sense to me. Alimony.
It doesn't. I don't know. It makes sense to me maybe because I know I would want it if I could get it. So I'm like,
Well,
it makes
yeah, I'm
sense
just
to
saying,
me.
like, why does anyone even offer this as a possibility? Why would
Well,
anyone want to get married with this hanging over your head? Like
well, that's why you
your
have
husband,
prenups, right? That's why you have a
right?
prenup. She
That's
was
true.
she wasn't the Wendy Williams when she met him, so now there was no prenup, or at least the prenup maybe only covered what she had at that point, right? Because
Yeah,
she was the Wendy Williams because she was had her show and stuff, but uh yes, I think that's what it was. So everything after that she garnered, because it's like when Janet Jackson got divorced from Renee Elizondo, they had a
mm,
prenup, but he got like $10 million because he was like, well, I helped build. I worked. He had evidence of working on all these projects and all
right.
his stuff, and so you know,
Yeah,
mm,
anyone with a decent lawyer can get through a prenup. I mean, that's what
yeah,
most lawyers will tell you. Just like if you set it up in such a way, like you said, to be involved in whatever they're doing,
hmm
and you can set yourself up to
right.
bypass a prenup. So that's the question I ask everyone. It's like, why is marriage so fucking retrograde? Where it's like this financial contractual obligation.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's so weird. Isn't that weird?
Are you saying like the need to get married, or just the
Or the fact that it
encumbrance?
exists, right?
Fact
Like
that,
the fact that, a marriage contract is incomplete without an addendum called a prenup. Like,
mm,
and then even when you add the prenup, it doesn't really cover you.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
that's fucked
yeah,
up. As a
yeah.
document, it is broken.
It is. It is.
It's
Because
not
even with
working.
that, you still got to have wills and trusts, and it ain't enough.
It's not enough. It
It's
doesn't
not
do
enough.
anything really.
True that. Well, one last hot topic, then we're gonna take a quick
Mm,
break. Gabrielle Union is looking beautiful in the web edition of Hello Beautiful, and in
okay.
that she's talking about the new show she's in, or the new season of the show she's in, which is it's Octavia Butler's show called, oh come on, Truth Be Told. That's the name of the show. Truth Be Told on
Mhm.
Apple Plus, which I love that show.
Yes.
I'm actually like I'm watching. I'm caught up. I'm caught up right now on the season. But do you watch
Okay.
that show at all? Have you ever seen that show?
I have not yet seen it. I do have it on my list though.
Yeah, you will not be
I'm
disappointed.
not much
And
of a TV watcher, but
hey, that's all right. That's all right. But it's a cliffhangery kind of show, and they don't give us all the episodes at once, so you'll be happy that you waited, because you won't have to wait like the rest of us suckers have to wait when it does that.
yeah, I feel you.
Uh, all right, so we're gonna watch a quick commercial. And as you know, the fans of the Soulful Cream podcast, we like to be silly, and so we do a lot of parody commercials at different times. So I'm going to play you our parody commercial for one of our products that we sell here at the Soulful Cream podcast. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this.
I'm Junior Boy and the president of JB Salons. It is my mission to help all bitches go from drab to fab. How do we do this, you ask? My patented Baddie Bitch formula has been a marvelous revelation for basic bitches. Our Baddie Bitch formula can be used as a relaxer, facial exfoliant, and a vaginal rejuvenator. Because if you don't look good, well, I still do.
All right, so that is our here. There we go. That is our little product there. Don't go looking for her online because she does not exist. But can you imagine something that you can exfoliate your face and get your vag together? I mean, like, that just helps you reduce so many things on your desk. I can hear you.
I was going to say that sounds like something someone whipped up in the kitchen from their grandma's recipe.
Yes, that's some old Madam C.J. Walker stuff.
It's like, yeah, you believed them just because, out of authority. Like,
Right. Oh yeah, it's like, oh, snake oil salesman on the street. Yeah, you do all these great things. All right, so our featured topic is who's on top. What does it say that both gay and heterosexual men prefer masculine men to feminine men in positions of power? A study was done in Australia, and they played different videos, YouTube videos, for these both straight and gay men of these actors portraying bosses. And they were, some were more masculine, some were more feminine. And it was clear that folks preferred the masculine gay to the feminine gay in a position of power. What does that say?
Yeah, I think it says that the patriarchy is strong and will be with us for a while. I mean, it's a basic idea that women do not make better managers because they are somehow more chaotic or more emotional or less authoritative. I think people who are misogynistic don't like taking instructions from women. I mean, there's just a basic idea of that. Like, if someone, and I'm substituting women for feminine presenting people generally. because they're, in this case, they're talking about feminine gay men, but same idea. It's just like, because you are lower on the social hierarchy, I feel I'm going to take more pot shots at whatever criticisms you have of me. I'm not going to take, your point of view as seriously, because I don't think that you have the authority to make such proclamations and so forth. And it does kind of bother me that this makes its way into gay men, because it's like, on some level we should recognize that feminine gay men are on kind of like on the vanguard of gay rights in a certain way. They're the people who were not given the privilege of a closet, right? I remember that was one of the things when I was reading that book about gay Washington, was all those people who were out and gay were like, being in a closet was never an option for me. Like, I fucking, you don't have to go into how I dress or act or whatever. It's just like, it's so obviously, even then people, it was interesting when they talked about feminine gay men who were out at the time. They were given at least the patina of a closet, because they would still get married and they'd still have their wives and they'd have their parties and everyone knew what was going on at those parties, but they had enough wealth and influence to, bypass this other thing. So they had enough male privilege, I guess you could say,
right,
for it to go around. And I don't know where I was going with that, because we were talking about gay men in modern society, but there's a lot. It's very complicated.
It's so much to unpack there, and when you have, like, as you said, gay men preferring not to have a femme boss. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with their own internalized shit, right? Their own internalized, like, I don't want that mirrored back to me, right? I don't want to have to be associated with that particularly. And maybe even on some level there is some degree of seeing the feminine as weaker, the feminine, as incapable, on some level, which I just find so backwards to me, because to me, the most feminine gay men have been some of the most successful gay men, to me, the smartest ones, the more business savvy ones, because they've had to learn how to navigate. As you said, they didn't have the benefit of a closet, so they had to get smart real quick, right, in order to make their way in the world. So I don't know, I think intellectually speaking, I think it makes sense. I guess, of course, for me, maybe with how femme are we talking? In the videos we were watching that they showed, it was an extreme. It wasn't like people wearing women's clothes or makeup or having like doing those types of things. It was just more so how the way they spoke and how their hand gestures and that type of thing, their energy type of thing. That was a part of this particular study. But it is very interesting though that that both gay men and straight men pretty much had the same reaction. I'm curious.
That is kind of sad. That is
sad. I'm curious if there were any, because part of me at first I was assuming that maybe every gay man who watched it was masculine, but what if there were femme men who were also watching the video and was like, I don't want her being my supervisor. What if that? I mean, that's very, very well possible as well. Because sometimes I was thinking about this today when I was working out. Because I was like, I think sometimes when there's things about other people I don't like, it's usually because I see myself in them, and especially if they're really embracing that thing I don't like about myself, and it's like, it's like, oh, they're like that. I'm not like thinking that, oh, that's me in the moment, but if I go back in the still of the night, and I'm like thinking, I think that was because I saw myself and I don't like that about myself.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that one time. They in the psychological literature call it shadow
Yes.
projection.
Yeah.
And the shadow is the inverse of your ego. It's basically the aspects of yourself that you deny, you repress, or don't really acknowledge. And they only come out in relationship to other people. So other people on the street, your friends, your family, other things trigger you. And so like when people keep having these, same dynamics in relationships, friendships, work relationships, it's all because of this unacknowledged thing from themselves that they project onto someone else. And the thing is, that's the only way you can know anything about this unknown submerged aspect of your personality, because this is what you chose to suppress.
Right.
In order for you to be who you are, you had to suppress other things about yourself, and that's not a bad thing. The bad thing is when you can't acknowledge it. And it keeps coming up and over again. So yeah, I think there's definitely something about that with a feminine gay man, is the fear that this is something as gay men, as men in general, we suppress our femininity.
Yes.
And so when we see it in someone else, it comes off as, I don't like them.
I like that. Right?
I don't like that. Right.
And maybe a little bit of it is envy, because of their freedom to express themselves in that way. I mean,
absolutely. That's truly the source of when it gets dark.
Most
it's
definitely.
when you're jealous of their freedom.
So we're gonna do our top three, and I asked that we come up with our top three vocalists of all time. But when I was looking for mine, man, I was like, okay, that was a ludicrous thing to say.
I know, right?
It was that was a horrible way to put it. It should have just said, name your top three, your faves. Name three of your fave singers of all time. That doesn't mean you don't have other great singers of all time, but to actually try to delineate it's just ludicrous. Because I was looking at other lists that other people had made. I was like, what? This is trash. This list is trash. And like Miss Mojo, I'm gonna read her. Miss Mojo, that website on YouTube, she did one of those, and I was like, this is so clearly a Caucasian list. This list is so, I mean, okay, anyway, but that's so it's all very, 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 very subjective, of course. So what's one of your top three artists? Of course, we know you like other people, but what's one of your top three male
honestly
vocalists?
Male vocalists?
Male vocalists. Male vocalists.
I mean, the first that comes to mind is Luther. I mean, it's just such a fucking cop out, but still. It's
not a cop out. It's not a cop out. It's because when I was doing research, I came back to Luther again myself, actually. And I tried to avoid him. I tried to avoid Luther Vandross. But when you think about all the genres he could play in and the way he could use his voice, and it's like, and he could do different things with it. A lot of the people who sound good are good singers, but their voices sound exactly the same on every song. And I think he had the ability to kind of shift that out when he wanted to. I was surprised.
I guess the idea was that I wanted to pick someone more recent, but I don't know. It's all right.
Yeah, it's like no one more recent was like. I mean, I could have, there were people who I like, but I was going. I'm thinking about people who I feel like who could cross genres, who didn't just excel at singing just pop or R&B, which is the areas I really like a lot. But maybe they did other things. Which is what led me to my other one, which is going to sound like a cop-out, but Michael Jackson. Because Michael Jackson could give us the rock and roll voice. He could give us the pop songs. He could give us the R&B stuff. He played with his voice, falsetto, the lower ranges. I just felt like while he wasn't the best singer, I think he was a great vocalist to me. It's kind of how I looked at it. Did you have who's your number? Who's another one of yours that you have?
Another one that also kind of oldie, but I guess goodie. Marvin Gaye. I mean, I guess it is a. I remember just some of these videos where he was just like sitting in the studio just singing are just ridiculously amazing because it's you're always used to that like very pressed, polished studio sound or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, that was just the way he sung. Like it wasn't pressed or polished at all. It was just like free flowing, like holy shit, So I just remember seeing some of those and just being genuinely impressed. But at the same time, I can't say that like the music that he created wasn't necessarily like in rotation of mine.
Right. Yeah.
Music that I love, but I mean, I guess I have a great deal of respect for his voice. So yeah, I mean, it kind of ends up on my list.
Same here, which is why I chose Ray Charles as my next one. Okay. Because when I was doing my research and looking up different artists, I was like, man, Ray Charles really, besides the big songs we know him for, he has a really vast catalog. And in that catalog, he's been doing different types of music for a really long time. And it was so funny. Jamie Foxx did such a good job singing like Ray Charles. When I heard Ray Charles singing like himself, I was like, for a second, I said, "Oh, he sounded like Jamie Foxx." I was like, "No, that's not how that goes." Yeah. So yeah, I definitely give flowers to Ray Charles on that one. So you got what's your last one there that you got?
Oh man, I don't have one. I'm gonna be honest.
All right, so we said Luther, Marvin Gaye, and then Ray Charles and Michael Jackson. That's not a bad list. That's not a bad list at all.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very fun, Malcolm. How was it? How was it for you? It wasn't too painful.
It was not bad at all. No, I'm doing good. I wish my equipment was working better, but I mean, I had a great time. Absolutely.
Oh, good. You sound great. Everything look good here. On this end. So let's just sign off for the people and I would say once again, you've been listening to the Soulful Cream podcast. And I want to say thanks to my special guest, Malcolm Travers of MaleMediaMind. You can find him on YouTube at MaleMediaMind and on podcasts for his M3 podcast, which is definitely on Spotify because that's where I listen to it at. Or is it on Apple Podcasts as well?
Yes, all the major ones. Yeah,
all the major podcasts there. So take a look and check them out. We'll be sure to post links to it on our YouTube page as well. All right. Thank you all for listening and or watching. Until next time. Bye.
Awesome.